My name is Robbie Russell. I have played for two different clubs in the MLS, both Real Salt Lake and DC United. I had total about a 14-year career, half of it in Europe and half of it in the MLS. So I went to Duke University for undergrad, and I ended up graduating in 2001. I graduated a little bit earlier than I was expected, just because I decided to kind of try and take my chances going abroad to play. So when I was applying to medical school, it turned out that all my prereqs from college no longer applied. So I had to redo all of my prerequisites in maths and sciences. And at that point, it was really discouraging, because I thought, I can't do another 4 years of school. That's too much on top of medical school, on top of residency. And then I discovered post-bac programs, which are like a godsend. It's essentially taking all of your prerequisites for that specific degree and condensing it down into almost 18 months is what the goal was, and I did it in 15 months, just because I was trying to do it as fast as possible. So when I chose the George Washington School of Medicine and Health Sciences, it was entirely because of my interview day. I came here and I met people that, deep down, I felt like I found a team. I had found people that I wanted to be in the trenches with. Like all the other students I met, all the faculty I had met, that air about them, I could see myself kind of being around these people for the next 4 years. It ended up coming down to like me picking the place that felt most like a team, it's something that's been important to me, and I've realized kind of is going to help me be successful is if I pick environments that I know I can thrive in and that I know I feel good in. I felt good as playing as a soccer player. I felt good being part of a team. I felt great in the locker room, and so I wanted to kind of realize that when I pick my new profession, I want to emulate that. I want that same feeling of like having a team, having that group behind me that I know I can rely on. And that was what I got on my interview day. And so in terms of picking my medical school, it had nothing to do with medicine. It just had to do with like finding a new team. Choosing what kind of medicine I wanted to study was difficult, actually. Most of my experience had been with the team docs that I kind of shadowed with and did scribing with when I was playing. And so I naturally thought that going into medicine, I was going to go into ortho. But I think when you're here in medical school, the entire process is designed to expose you to as many different aspects of medicine as possible. And you kind of figure out what culture, what team almost, that you fit with, the best. And I think emergency medicine is where I found my niche. I think there are skills that I've used from playing that I use when I'm now practicing or going to practice. Every shift I kind of go to, I almost approach it like I'm going to a game, because when you are showing up at the hospital and you need to work your shift, it doesn't matter what else is going on outside in your life. You need to kind of turn it on to be there for your patients. And so that's been really helpful for me, because it's like I do almost the same rituals I did before I got ready for my games. I do it before I go into a shift. Transitioning from being a soccer player and team-based kind of environment to anything outside, it can be difficult. When I first kind of tackled the idea of going back to medical school and understanding what it takes to go into medicine, I was like, no chance. There's no way I can do this. I had been out of school for over a decade, and it seemed so daunting that initially I just already had written myself off. And luckily, I ended up having a mentor in my father-in-law. And when I had initially gone to Duke, I had thought pre-med. I'd started as a pre-med kind of major, walked into my first calculus course, and I bombed it. I bombed my first exam. And I was like, oh, I'm a scholarship player, can't let my GPA drop. I guess medicine isn't for me. If I can't make it through calculus, then it's not for me. And I told him this. And he said, oh, I hate calculus. What does that have to do with anything? And he was like, you know, if you really want this, you can get through it, you can do this. And so having someone who is in the field, who knows me, tell me that like, I think you can do this, it was like just bomb went off in my brain, you know? And that's honestly sometimes the biggest thing you need, is that you are your own worst enemy in your head, and you sometimes need a mentor. You need someone to kind of sit down with you who's been there to say to you, listen, you can do this. I did it, you can do this. And once I knew that there was someone in the field that believed in me, the rest of it was easy. You know, the rest of it was like, no matter how hard it gets, I know I can tackle this. And that, I think, was my biggest hurdle that I needed to kind of cross over in order to like go to medical school, or I think to go into anything I want to do. It's just understanding I can do this. And having a mentor is so crucial. When you are studying for that transition from being a player to doing something else outside of playing, it adds on time to your day. It's not something you can do while you're playing. You have to kind of make that extra time outside of, you know, work, so to speak. And I know when I was younger, I wasn't ready to do that. When I first started playing, all I wanted to do was focus on like being a soccer player and doing the best I could, which is natural, right? But at some point, you need to start thinking past, you know, when the game's gonna, you know, no longer be there for you, and how you can kind of like keep moving, because, you know, we retire at like 35, 36, if we're lucky. Like, that's a long, great career, right? And so what are you gonna do after 35? And so you need to kind of start realizing that like, you are blessed to be an athlete, but like, athletics is short. You don't get to play forever. It's worth it, you know, putting those extra hours, you know, while you're playing, especially towards the end of your career, is totally worth it, because it will pay off after you're retired and you don't want to be sitting on your couch.